What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Ghost Guide video. Today we're going to be talking about the Jinn. If you would like to see what my custom settings are for this particular mission, you can check the description box below. But without further ado, let's go talk about the Jinn. So I'm gathering stuff for our ghost room, and as you can see, we have this EMF 5 spike right here. We're going to double, triple check it, because sometimes things can debate you a little bit, but I did not have a ghost event, so this is more than likely EMF 5. Our ghost room is in the storage area, so I'll meet you up there. All right, so this is our ghost room. I was hearing plenty of things being thrown around, like paintbrushes. That's not a paintbrush, just kidding. It sounded like a paint. Yep, there's the paintbrush. Hello? Hello? Why'd you turn my light off? Rude. All right, let me point this over this direction, maybe. And maybe this one can go that direction. Oops, that's a little bit too much the same. Okay, that'll work. Let's grab our UV, our spirit box, and our video camera. Turn the lights off. It makes it easier to see dots as well as orbs. I am not seeing any. I should have EMF'd the door, or EMF'd the light switch, but alas, I didn't even have it on. Let's keep that on. Let's look at this. No freezing yet. Can take a hot minute too. Where are you? Are you here? Are you close? Are you friendly? Where are you? Are you near? So sometimes getting spirit box in this room can be a challenge too, because this is a tier 1 spirit box. It's a fairly large room. And I think I'm gonna go bring salt because it's not really doing a whole lot. Kinda being a little maybe shady. All right, we'll place the salt here and here. Then we have this salt in case we need it. I'm not gonna place it just... Oh, wait, that threw something while we were in the room. That's something very important to take note of. That was an EMF 3 though. It's about a 25% chance for it to give EMF 5 when it interacts with things. Well, let's double check our temp. Temps are low, but still not freezing. Let's see, did it step in any salt while we were away? We did not. We could try putting this other can back here. See if it starts to step. Gotta get... Oh, hello. That's not very shady at all now that I think about that. All right, where'd my spirit box go? Didn't I have that? I did. Where are you? Are you here? Are you close? Are you friendly? Are you near? Are you far? Are you close? So to me, that tells me that this is probably not a spirit box ghost because we were literally standing on top of where it just evented. It is also, let's see, not a spirit box ghost, most likely. It's not a wraith, which was kind of what I was wondering. We kind of maybe have EMF 5. Keep that in mind. So it's gonna maybe be one of these ghosts. Ghosts don't like to do things when the lights... Oh, steps? Okay, hello? Where's that UV? Give it. Okay, so we do have UV. All right, double checking the door. Okay, there was a fingerprint. Oh, we have freezing. Okay, look at that. We have a Jinn. Jinns are kind of a fun ghost, and I like them in particular because they never turn off the breaker. That is the very first thing you need to know about Jinns is they will never turn off your breaker. If a ghost turns off the breaker, not a Jinn. Now, the reason it won't turn off the breaker is because its abilities are tied to the breaker. So by turning off the breaker, it would actually be making itself... Is this a hunt? This is a hunt. Okay. Well then, I was not prepared for that. Okay. Immediately fast. Remember how it was normal speed and then all of a sudden it was very fast? We may have gotten Jinned. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think our sanity was that low. I don't think it was that low, to be fair. Also, if you know from my previous twins video, some ghosts can create those twin interaction lines. You got to be very careful because we know this is a Jinn and it's not the twins, so you got to be very careful. We may have been Jinned, and what that means is the ghost may have actually dropped our sanity by 25% for no reason. Now, it's really hard to tell when the ghost actually does that ability. You have to have an EMF placed at the breaker, but I'll explain that a little bit more in depth later and why I don't think it's useful to telling whether or not it's a Jinn. The most important part about identifying a Jinn is listening to its speed up. So Jinns, A, will never turn off the breaker, and B, Jinns will be normal speed until you are within line of sight, after which they will speed up to a speed of 2.5 meters per second. So the major difference between a Jinn and a Revenant, because a Revenant will speed up when it knows where you are too, is that Revenants can speed up if they even know where you are, whether through your voice detection or your electronics being turned on. Jinns only speed up with line of sight. So I could be having a flashlight on in the next room and it'll sense my flashlight, but it will not actually speed up until it has line of sight with me. Also, Jinns do not move at the same speed that Revenants do. Revenants move at 3 meters per second, which is significantly faster than the 2.5 meters per second. Also, Revenants are extremely slow when they do not know where their prey is. Whereas a Jinn that does not have line of sight on a player will actually be normal speed. Completely normal speed. It will not be slow when it's searching. So along with the Jinn speed abilities, if the breaker were turned off, the Jinn would not do its speed up ability. We'll actually show a hunt where we obviously get the Jinn to speed up at us. I'm gonna try to get the ghost to come down here without line of sight. You'll hear its normal speed and then come into line of sight, and then the immediate speed up will definitely tell you that it's a Jinn. But we'll also do it with the breaker off, and you'll see that this Jinn does not speed up with line of sight at all. Also, the Jinn will actually start to slow down once it approaches 2 meters away from a player. So it'll immediately zoom to 2.5 meters per second to kind of bridge the gap that it has between the player and the ghost. And then after that, it actually slows down to a regular type speed ghost, but it's still gonna have some line of sight gain speed up. Okay, so our baby's coming now. Normal speed. Immediately fast. Normal speed. See if we can get her to go away a little bit. Okay, that was a little too quick of a hunt, but you could see that she was normal speed and immediately gains line of sight speed. Now, I'm gonna go quickly turn off the breaker and grab a flashlight because I would like to be able to see while I do this, but the ghost will not do the immediate speed up because the breaker will be turned off. All right, so we're turning the breaker off. Let's go hang out over by the same spot. I might need a few smudges for this because I'm a little bit nervous about my lighting situation. My tier 2 or my tier 1 candles, my tier 1 flashlights, not exactly the best, but we'll make do. So here comes our ghost. Normal speed. Normal line of sight speed up right there. I also have no idea where our ghost is or no idea where we are, so panicking, absolutely panicking. Okay, so now that we have seen the difference between when the breaker is on and when the breaker is off, I very quickly want to turn the breaker back on and show you how the ghost starts to slow down after it bridges the gap between a player, and it starts to slow down around 2 meters away, which honestly 2 meters is not a lot of space, and so it's kind of terrifying. It's a little bit terrifying how close that can be, so I'm hoping maybe we can just loop it around the table and that will be enough to bridge the gap. And earlier I said that this Jinn cannot turn off the breaker, which is so nice because most ghosts will turn off your breaker incessantly, especially the Hantu, but even then, not just the Hantu. But the Jinn can, however, turn on your breaker. So the only ghost that can't turn on your breaker is a Hantu, but Jinns can absolutely turn on your breaker. And with that, Jinns can turn off your light switches. They can turn them off. It's just they can't turn off the breaker. All right, so this might be a little bit terrifying, and I hope I don't mess this up and end up perishing in the meantime. It took a little. Ooh. Ooh, it took a little step. It took a little step that ended up slowing down. I don't know if you heard that step just before it came really, it has to get really close to you. It has to get really close to you, and it might have been better if I like backed it up this way. Honestly, we might have to try that. And we don't have any more smudge sticks, so we might have to try that and see if we can showcase that a little bit better. And I'm sorry, I've been saying 2 meters away. I meant to say 3 meters away. It's 3 meters away that the ghost has to be from the player for it to start slowing down, which 3 meters is not a lot. These candles, oh, the candles don't have an indicator on them, do they? That's so unfortunate. I think our crucifixes upstairs, if I'm not mistaken, are 3 meters. So maybe I can showcase that. Let's try that. So that is how close the ghost has to be to you in order for it to start slowing down. So it is very close to you when it starts to slow down, and it's kind of scary. So when we were standing here where this crucifix is, the ghost was right here when it started to slow down, which is closer than you'd like it to be. So it's kind of hard to showcase for that reason. Okay, so before we leave from talking about the Jinn, there is one thing that we need to talk about that is also a Jinn ability, and it's very nuanced and hard to capture. Like, it's hard to showcase this ability, and it's never the way that I would determine whether or not something is a Jinn. So Jinns, if they are within 3 meters of a player and the breaker is on, they can drop that player's sanity by 25% by using its ability. When it does this, it leaves an EMF value at the breaker. That EMF value can be EMF 2, it can be EMF 5. It obeys the standard 25% chance for it to leave an EMF 5 at the breaker. Otherwise, it can leave an EMF 2. EMF 2 being an ability. However, as you can see, my breaker is downstairs in the master bedroom, and my ghost is all the way upstairs. So how am I gonna hear? How am I gonna hear if my EMF starts doing stuff at the breaker? And also, how do I know it didn't teleport here to turn off the breaker? I mean, obviously I'd be able to tell if the lights were there, but it could have done that. It could have touched the door. No, it wouldn't necessarily teleport to the breaker in order to just touch the door here. But if you're in the same room as a Jinn, you don't know if it maybe touched this, and that is what's causing the EMF value. So like, say you're on Tanglewood in the garage, you'd be able to test if it was a Jinn. Like, say that was your ghost room, you'd be able to test if it was maybe using its ability a little bit easier, but you have to also keep in mind it could have touched something around it. You know, it's very hard to tell that this in particular is what the ghost did. And especially if you have a tier 1 EMF like I do, it'd be really, really, really hard to tell. So this is not an ability that I ever really use to test for Jinn. I always test for Jinn by listening to it during a hunt. Is it normal speed until it sees me? If it is in fact normal speed before it sees me, and then it speeds up with line of sight, that's going to be your best bet that it is a Jinn. The very last thing I want to note about Jinns is that they can overload your breaker. So if they turn on a light switch, they can in fact overload your breaker and break the breaker. That is not them turning off the breaker. If you overload the breaker, in fact, let me do a little quick showcase of that. So I have several lights on already in this house. I believe 8 is the max number that I can have. I'm gonna go ahead and try to overload the breaker and show you the difference between if the ghost turned it on versus if we overloaded the breaker. Okay, we have a lot of lights on. We have a lot of lights on. Okay, so that was overloading the breaker. Notice how I just flipped that light switch and now it's in the off position. If I go back here and I go to turn on the light over here, which this light was on, all of my lights are going to still remain off. That's how you know you overloaded the breaker. Now, if I turn on these lights here again and pretend that I'm the ghost turning off the breaker, obviously we have a Jinn, it will never turn off the breaker. It's gonna turn it off like this. Notice how my light switch is still in the on position. The on position does not indicate that the breaker was overloaded, but it was turned off. And in fact, when I turn the breaker back on, the lights come on immediately. So keep that in mind. The Jinn can overload the breaker, but it cannot turn off the breaker. All right, we got a Jinn, let's go. Also, Jinns do not have an increased chance to turn on lights or interact with electronics at all. Those are just myths. They are just myths. They do not have an increased chance. But there we go. We have a Jinn. Let's see if it did actually use an ability. It's so hard to tell if it did. It did not use its ability. So that very first hunt, when I thought maybe it could have used its ability, we just drained sanity naturally. All right, that's it for the Jinn. If you have any questions or comments about the Jinn, don't forget to leave it in the description box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Ghost Guide video. Bye-bye.